Namaste and welcome. I am Pratim Ranjan Bose and you are listening to my podcast Perspective. In this episode, I will share my views on the potential economic crisis building up in Bangladesh. That Bangladesh has been suffering from a foreign exchange crisis since middle of 2022 is known. The news is it is getting from bad to worse. The bigger news is all indicators put together suggest a wider and deeper economic crisis is in the making in the second largest economy in South Asia. The Sheikh Hasina government's state of denial to accept the harsh reality, resistance to structural reforms, bad policy making, and last but not the least, the unbridled corruption should squarely be blamed for this mess. According to Bangladeshi Central Bank records, from a peak of nearly $42 billion in 2021, the forex reserves followed a secular declining trend for nearly 2 years and reached less than $27 billion in September 2023. This is, however, an inflated number as it includes a $6 billion Export Development Fund or EDF. The money was lent out at soft rates to a handful of crony business groups with an established track record of defaulting loan repayment. The rest of the things followed the set pattern. EDF loans were not repaid. The money is now held as lost forever. The government and Bangladesh Central Bank are now issuing circulars to commercial banks for recovery. Going by the track record, this is an eyewash. Bank gaming is an old disease in Bangladesh. However, the situation was never as bad. The state-owned banks controlled by the finance ministry are buried under a pile of bad debts. Historically, the central bank monitored private sector banks were relatively better performers, but no more. Net of EDF, Bangladesh's forex reserve plummeted to below $21 billion in October. This was way below the $25 billion target set by the International Monetary Fund for September. IMF agreed to offer $4.7 billion loan for macroeconomic stability of Bangladesh. Notably, Dhaka imposed stiff import restrictions to reduce foreign currency outflow. From $6.4 billion in 2021 and $7 billion in 2022, the monthly import bill is now below the pre-COVID level of $5 billion. However, the measures didn't work. Over the last 2 months, foreign exchange reserves eroded by $2 billion or $1 billion a month. The problem lies with the inflow and is largely created. Bangladesh has two major sources of foreign exchange: ready-made garments, contributing 85% of exports, and remittance. According to available estimates, exports were up by over 9% in the July-September quarter, but the remittance earnings were down by 13%. This is despite a record outmigration of over 11 lakh workers to overseas destinations during 2022-23 July-June financial year. Clearly, something is missing here. The clue lies in the artificially low official exchange rate and distinctly higher US dollar to Taka conversion value offered by the illegal money transfer network, also known as Hundi. Bangladesh doesn't have a market-determined exchange rate. Worse, it has at least 4 or 5 different administered rates for different categories like exporters, importers, remitters, etc. In the past, the central bank unofficially pegged the Bangladeshi taka with Indian rupee at a notional exchange value and changed dollar rates accordingly. The recent topsy-turvy in both the local and the global economy disrupted that design. As the weaknesses of the Bangladeshi economy became apparent from the middle of the last year, the unofficial rate of taka suffered a free fall against the US dollar. Instead of accepting this reality, the Bangladeshi central bank tried to keep the local currency artificially strong, leading to wide gaps between official and unofficial rates. Ideally, a devaluation of taka should help Bangladesh's export economy. However, the potentially powerful ready-made garment sector follows a different playbook. They insist on cheap import of fabric and other inputs. Part of the export revenues are parked abroad. A doctored balance sheet showing minimal or no returns helps them to extract many official or unofficial benefits like non-repayment of loans at home. Dhaka decided to keep the garment sector happy by keeping exchange rates low. Bangladeshis living in abroad sent remittances through unofficial channels for better rates. The reserve suffered a free fall. As of date, the globally publicized exchange rate of Bangladesh is 110 taka a dollar. Importers get dollar at 112 or more. The rate of remittance inflow is 115 taka a dollar. In the carb market, $1 is sold above 120 taka. Clearly, there is reason why overseas remittances are entering Bangladesh through unofficial channels. But that's not all. There is serious concern about Bangladesh's actual export earnings. The government earlier reported nearly 7% year-on-year growth in export shipments to over $55 billion in 2022-23. However, according to Central Bank, the export receipts of Bangladesh declined by 1.5% to $43 billion in the last fiscal. Not to mention that receipts are actual exports. But more importantly, a 22% deviation from the shipment data is abnormal and indicate data fudging. Did that make policymakers in Dhaka sit up? Not at all. According to official data, shipment of garments grew by 17% in knitwear and 7% in non-knitted woven segments during July-August this year. The numbers are highly questionable because competing nations, Vietnam and India, reported a sharp decline in export of similar varieties during the same period. It is intriguing how Bangladesh remained an exception to global trends, that too in the face of import restrictions which should impact its production capacity. According to official data, the import of intermediaries for ready-made garments was down by 26% during July-August 2023. The Vice President of Bangladesh Knitwear Manufacturers and Exporters Association was recently quoted by media saying that the sector has been facing an order crisis since the middle of 2022 and most of the factories, including his, are running at low capacity. The wide gap between claim and reality and misguided policy decisions have started hurting common people like never before. Inflation is hovering just below 10% for last 6 months. The trend is similar to the crisis-ridden Pakistan. In 2022, when the world was hiking interest rates to reduce money supply and contain inflation, Bangladesh kept interests unchanged. Worse, according to available reports, Bangladesh printed currency to ensure liquidity. Common Bangladeshis are now paying the price. A dozen of eggs in Dhaka cost nearly double to prices in the eastern Indian metropolis of Kolkata. Almost all staples and vegetables like potato, onion, etc. are on fire. Going by the trends, there is little doubt that Bangladesh is in for a bigger trouble than a mere foreign exchange crisis. But the government is trying to maintain a rosy picture. Thank you for listening to Perspective. If you like this episode, please share and subscribe. See you next week. फिर मिलेंगे.